and she didn't say flipping. So she even knew, and people knew, and now people in the grief field are recognizing it. It is for the dying and not the bereaved. So I wanted to come up with a new modality, a new model. And I call it S.T.A.I.R.S. And it's a simple model to remember. If you know in grief how gravity seems to increase when you're grieving, everything is heavier. You weigh everything on your shoulders. You get to the top of the stairwell and you have to take a breath. Doesn't seem to be anything physically wrong, but we grieve, our body grieves. Somatically, we call it. It's the somatic side of grieving. The whole body grieves. The body remembers. We grieve spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. It's all tied in together. But the first step is shock. I call it S.T.A.I.R.S. So it's shock. That is the first step, like the first picture here. Shock. That is what numbs us from head to foot. That's what gets us through. How else can we pick out a casket, buy flowers, and give comfort to those coming to our family's member's funeral? Who's giving more comfort? They're so uncomfortable with our grief, we're giving them comfort. How do we do that? We're a basket case inside, but we're saying, how are you doing? I'm fine. No, I'm not fine. I'm falling apart inside. But we're in shock. We're numb. That's how we get through it. But eventually that numbness wears off, and reality creeps in. And that's when we get to the second step, trauma. That's living trauma. That's living the loss. That's the trauma of the loss, and it becomes real. All the deficiencies in our life that have become apparent after our loved one is gone. And we live in that trauma. Some people can live in that trauma for the rest of their life. Never get past that second step. The trauma, I compare it to the, like when you had the hurricane, or the earthquake rather, in Japan. And the earthquake is what took our child from our arms. What follows the earthquake? The tsunami. The tsunami is a grief that takes over our life. And we can either choose to live in the rubble, or we can rebuild. And that is our challenge, to be able to rebuild and revitalize our life again. But that takes the third step, which is acceptance, assimilation, where we assimilate into our life the loss. And a lot of people say it's hard to accept. I can't accept the loss. But if you're going down the road and you have a flat tire, you can say, well, I just don't accept this. What are you going to do? You either walk, or you call a friend, or you fix it. Well, there's no fixing grief, so you walk alone, or you call a friend. Hopefully you call a friend. That is the most important part of crawling out of this grief hole, is having a friend. So once you have accepted the loss, then you can find out what to do with it. Now what do I do? The next step, introspection, insight. You look within yourself. You find out what gifts you have, what talents you have that you never knew you had or never knew were there. You say you grow from grief. I think we just unburied treasure that we've had beneath us. We had no idea the talents that we had. But this brings it to bear when we go into an inside of ourselves and find with insight and our gut feeling. And then once we've done that, then we can go to the next step, up the step to reinvestment, which is reinvesting in life, rebuilding, the Renaissance. I've been called a Renaissance man, whatever that means. But it's embracing life and living life. And you can reinvest in life and become better than you've ever been. Then the last step, serenity. If we go through all these steps, we can reach serenity. We can have joy in our life again. Now that I'm a grandfather, I never thought, I accepted I reached a plateau of joy in my life after my son died in 20-some years. Then my granddaughter was born. And my heart started beating louder and warm again. I could physically feel the joy in my heart, and I could not deny it, that I've gone one step above. I'm almost back to where I was, and I never thought that could ever be possible. But for me, it was falling in love. If you can't have grandchildren and it'll never be possible in your life, it's falling in love with somebody, with something. Even if it just brings your life back. And it is possible to reach serenity. Not everybody will reach serenity regardless of their loss. And I said before, Viktor Frankl, to survive, one must set goals. So we set goals for us, no matter how small they are. It was just getting to the coffee pot before I break down and cry. If it's just getting to the bathroom, and I don't know how many years down the road where I woke up and I realized I didn't think about Kelly being dead until I got to the coffee pot. For the first 5 years, or I don't even know when, but what do you do when you open your eyes in the morning? It's right there. You start your day off saying, this is real. My child is gone. So we set a goal for the day, just to get through the day. Then we set a goal for the week and the month and the year, and we can set for our future. Because there is no going back. As cold as it is what it is. We can't change what happened, but we can modify how we react to the trauma in our life. And finding peace is not going through the grief. Like in Alan's song, it's something you go through. It's nothing you get over. It's not an illness. It's a life experience, and you learn to live with it. We adapt to the reality, and we build a future and a legacy for them. We are their hands. We are their voice. We are their heart. We can live for them. Who else better to keep them alive in the world than the one who loves them the most? And to say their name and tell people, our child dies a second time when no one says their name. And I did that for the first 5 years, and I brought him back, and I brought my life back doing that. So it's turning loss into legacy. We create a legacy for our loved one in many different ways. Well, how do you start? You can do it in many ways. Giving is one example. Just giving to other people. Do as much as you can to other people. Giving. Give blood. That's simple. I started giving blood after my son died. I wanted to give back. And I became selfish because I felt good after I've given blood to somebody. I know I'm helping a little child with leukemia. I'm giving someone, saving their life maybe, or giving them a longer life. So since my son died 25 years ago, I have donated over 35 gallons of blood. Thank you. And I say that because I want to encourage other people to give blood, but I come dancing out of there when I give blood feeling good. So I started wanting to do it all the time because that was the only thing that made me really feel good in the early days was when I went to give blood. Doing something for people, opening doors for people physically, metaphorically, getting someone to have a parking spot. Let's diffuse road rage with road love. So we accept the loss is real, we actively grieve, and we lament. We don't even hear about lamenting anymore. You get over it, you grieve, you go back. But lamenting is expressing our sorrow, is getting it out. Writing a song, writing a poetry, talking to people about your loss. Lamenting, yes, I still lament. Grieving is different from lament. Grieving is a painful, it's a body, it's a whole thing. Lamenting is letting it out. Mourning, lamenting, expressing, getting it out. So we rebuild. Get involved in the journey. Bring people into your fold. Ask them to help you with the journey. All those people that told you, is there anything I can do? Well, 5 years later, call them up. I need my garage cleaned. I really need some help here. Call them, bring them, because people say it and they don't mean it. So the onus is on us to bring them in. And creating a legacy can be done in so many ways, and I'm going to go through a few lists of those. But the sharing of our continued journey all the time. Well, we don't have to do it all the time, but we don't have to be embarrassed by it. We've become embarrassed. You ever talk to somebody that lost, even my mom talked about a child that died a long time ago. You whisper about it because we're embarrassed about it. Why should we be embarrassed that we had a loved one that died? We should be proud that they lived and talk about them and share it with everybody and help others on their journey. Continually seek joy. Accepting the challenge. That's tough. But we can't ignore it. It's not going to go away. So we look at our strengths, look at our weaknesses, find a support group. The Compassionate Friends, Bereaved Parents USA, Parents of Murdered Children, Parent Heart Watch. There's groups all over. There are little splinter groups that are specific to the loss that will help you get through it. Twinless twins. There are specific groups to that loss. No one knows your loss. My loss is my loss. You can't say, I know how you feel. You don't say that to anybody because you don't know how you feel. We may have the same loss of a child or the same loss of a sibling, but I don't know how you feel. I don't even know how my wife feels. I mean, I know her as well as I can, knowing her from 15 years old, but I don't know how she processes her grief internally, and she doesn't know how I process mine. Finding the tools for the journey. Okay, now we rebuild the body. The body is, again, somatic. We feel the grief in our whole body. And so if we move through the grief, we do physical things to express it. Some men can't cry. Some women can't cry. There are criers, there are non-criers. But the composition of tears is the same as sweat. So if you can't cry it out, sweat it out. Go chop some wood. Go running. Go on the treadmill. Do something to let all that angst and all that grief out. It needs to. Our body suffers. Our body grieves. And if we don't move, we tend to be sedentary. We sit. We can lay on the couch for a week and not do a thing. And all that metabolic waste. I was a massage therapist, so I know that the metabolic waste builds up in your body, especially your trapeziuses. Everybody has a lot of pain in their shoulders. We hold it all up. I call it the Minnesota hunch. That's how we walk to get to our car, to our home in the middle of the winter when it's 40 below. But I would tell people, come on, look at you. You're holding all that grief in. And I would massage them and work on their shoulders and then see that, wow. Then they go right back up to it because we're holding it in. We're carrying so much on our shoulders. So it's good to take care of our body. Use fresh fruit. That's why we got fresh fruit out there. We have some wholesome food out there. And pizza. But copious amounts of water. Drink water all the time, as much as you can. It helps flush the body. Get a massage. Go to a hot tub. Go to a sauna. Do something good for yourself. And it helps relieve that toxins. And it does. When I would work on massaging people, sometimes they would just break into tears because the grief started coming out as much as the toxins did. It was buried within the body. And there's triggers in our body that release the emotions. And so then, again, reducing alcohol, drugs, that goes without saying. We are masking the grief. We need to process it, go through it. Anything we do to mask it is just going to delay the process. It's not going to ever go away. We need to process it every day, the rest of our life. So we do what you can to help the body. Swim, run, jog. Do what you can to stay healthy. That'll help your emotional health as well. And to sing and dance, whistle, hum. It's like women scream. I've never had a baby, thank God. But women who go through childbirth, they scream and they moan because it releases endorphins. It releases the body's opiates to reduce the pain. And that's why we moan when we hurt. But also, when we laugh, it sets up the same vibration and it releases opiates. That's why it feels good when you laugh and why it feels good when you're done crying, because it's releasing endorphins. It's the body's natural way to reduce the pain in the body and the mind. So we rebuild the mind too. You ever feel like that? Anybody feel like that sometimes in your grief? Where your world is shattered, it's broken apart, you don't know which way you're going, you don't know which way tomorrow is, you don't know, you're so frustrated. So you rebuild the mind. I first started doing crossword puzzles after my son died, because all I was doing was thinking about him. And so at least on crossword puzzles, I could just do something. Or Scrabble, where you just get your mind into words, and it helps just stimulate the mind and to keep it active and keep it, because thoughts aren't going to go away, but we still need to participate in the world in a normal fashion. We have jobs, we have responsibility, we've got to pay taxes, we've got to make money, we have to do something, we have to get back on track. We can't live forever on the couch. So we rebuild the mind. We need to do that. And work of art is hard when you're not inspired, but to do a collage, do something that represents your loved one. If you do it and honor your loved one, it's not so hard. Say, I'm going to do this for my loved one. I'm going to do something for them. Then that let inspire you to maybe do something to let it out. Because even children do works of art, and you can really see things that come out in the art, that come out from your emotions, go into the art, and you're letting it out. If you can't speak it out, you bring it out in inspiration. Plan an event, do a golf tournament, do something that'll honor your loved one and the whole community. And imagine, keep your mind busy. Listen to music, Alan Pedersen's music. Rebuilding the soul. Everybody faces this major challenge after you lost your loved one. What is my relationship with God now? Some people are mad. God took my child. Or like my son's case, he had a miracle healing. And we said, wow, his tumor disappeared. We thank God. And then the cancer came back, and I said, what, were you just teasing me? This is terrible. You take the tumor away, and then the cancer comes back, and you take him. And I was so mad at him that he just did that to us. I felt like it was a trap. But then I realized, no, that the cycle of life, we're all going to be dying. It's just part of life, that we're going to die someday. Some people just die too early. But we have the relationship with God, whatever it is. Like as our dear friend of ours, Chris Munch, says, I don't care if you worship a meatball. It's worshiping something outside yourself, depending on someone else, something bigger than yourself to get you through this. And you can do that by helping others, volunteering in the community or the church, and finding meditation, quiet time. Herbert Benson back in the 60s called it the relaxation response. You don't have to be a yoga and go to India and sit in a lotus position. My God, I couldn't. With both legs like this, I could not sit in a lotus position and find quiet time. But I can at the state fair, sitting at a park bench watching 1 million people go by. I can meditate and get quiet in a crowd with thousands of people than I can with 2 people in a room. The white noise of life, you just let it, you just sit on the edge and you watch it. And that can be just quieting the mind and quieting the soul. And praying, and then setting intentions. Establishing a new relationship. Whatever your religious beliefs are, I just believe that I will see my son again. That's my religious belief. That I know he has survived death, and I will join him someday. I'm not ready to go. In the early days, I'd say, come on, my wife and I talked about doing a Thelma and Louise. But we had a daughter to take care of. We're not going to jump off a cliff. But the thoughts were there. We processed them and let them go. But you do, those feelings do, and they're natural feelings. But change, make change. Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. They did a huge thing. They turned that anger into something positive and are saving lives across the country. And be proud that you're a survivor, you're an intentional survivor. Build that pride. And paying it forward. I love the movie Paying It Forward. It gave a name to something that I was doing for people. I would do portraits for people. What does it cost to do a portrait? I said, well, it's either $150, back then it was, or go give blood, and I'll do it for nothing. So people would go give blood. Then they'd be excited because they're feeling what it's like to give blood, and it's a win-win situation. So pay it forward. Live compassionately every day of your life. Reach out to people that are in pain. It's risky business. It's emotional risks. But what can hurt us more than we've ever been hurt? So we can take emotional risks like we've never taken before. It's transformational. The power in grief is huge. And we have a choice in how it changes our lives and those around us. The macrocosm and the microcosm. We can make big change with how we live our life and use that power in the grief to do that. So we can create a legacy. Write a journal, write a book, create music, start a TCF, be a chapter leader. They give blood, give time. They say time heals. Everybody heard that? The only way time heals is when you give it away. So give your time away to others, and you will automatically feel better. It's helping others. St. Francis of Assisi said, when you give, you shall receive. So, and organize a memorial event for the community. Do something. Put banners out. I don't give you, rent a plane and put your child's name on that banner behind the plane. And said, Kelly lives. Let the people know that you are still keeping your child with you in your life. So be intentional, be proactive. That's what proactive grieving is. It's taking the bull by the horns. And you have there's no time schedule. You can do it. You can sit on the couch for months, and that's okay. This is your grief. It's your journey. You can clean your child's room out if it's a child you have lost the next day, because that's what you need to do, and that's okay. You can keep a shrine in there for 20 years, and don't let anybody tell you that that's wrong. That's your way, and that's perfectly okay. That is your grief. That is your journey. Our loved one dies a second time when no one says their name, and I refuse to let that happen with my son.